Right now, Will Smith is being called the comeback king of Hollywood. He's starring in sequels, announcing new projects, and publicly working harder than ever. But this isn't a comeback. It's a carefully constructed illusion designed to hide one brutal truth. The era of Will Smith, the global box office sovereign, is over. So if the comeback isn't real, what are we actually looking at? Let's break down the Mirage, piece by manufactured piece. Act 1. The Mirage. What a comeback looks like. On the surface, the evidence seems undeniable. The narrative is compelling. In the summer of 2024, Bad Boys: Ride or Die exploded into theaters. The fourth film in a decades-old franchise, starring a man who, just 2 years prior, was Hollywood's most radioactive star. The film didn't just perform, it overperformed. A global box office haul soaring past $405 million. The headlines wrote themselves. Will Smith is back. The industry breathed a sigh of relief. The audience, they concluded, had forgiven him. But that was just the first piece of the illusion. Look at his slate. The activity is frenetic. He is attached to I Am Legend 2 for Warner Brothers. He's developing Fast and Loose and Sugar Bandits. He's producing. He's starring. The trade publications are filled with his name. This is the second pillar of the comeback myth: sheer volume. The message is that he is too busy, too in demand to be anything but fully restored. Then there's the image rehabilitation. In 2024, he released the National Geographic series Welcome to Earth and Pole to Pole. Here is Will Smith, the earnest adventurer, the curious global citizen. It's prestigious, it's safe, and it's emotionally distant from the chaos of the movie star world. It's reputational laundering on a grand scale, a strategic pivot to important television that feels like growth, but is actually a retreat. The picture is complete. A box office hit, a packed schedule, a prestige pivot, the classic Hollywood redemption arc. But here is the first fatal crack in that story. A true comeback for a star of Will Smith's former magnitude isn't defined by sequels to 30-year-old franchises. It isn't measured by development deals or streaming documentaries. A real comeback is defined by sovereignty. It is the unchallenged power to stand in front of a brand new story with no pre-existing fan base and command the attention of the world. To open an original blockbuster on his name alone. Bad Boys 4 didn't test that power. It tested nostalgia for Mike Lowrey and Marcus Burnett. His documentary work doesn't test it, it sidesteps the question entirely. Every project he now champions is a safe harbor, a known quantity, a calculated risk. And in Hollywood, calculation is the opposite of king-making. The comeback you're being sold is a portfolio of strategically chosen, defensible positions. It is the illusion of momentum designed to distract from a much harder truth. The crown he once wore no longer exists, and he is not fighting to get it back. He's building a comfortable life without it. But to understand why this is an illusion, you first have to understand what real power looked like, the empire he actually lost. Act 2. The Foundation. What a real comeback requires. To see the illusion, you must first remember the reality. The standard Will Smith is being measured against isn't just that of a successful actor. It's the legacy of a box office sovereign, a ruler whose reign defined an era of Hollywood. For a solid 15-year period, from 1996's Independence Day to 2012's Men in Black 3, Will Smith didn't just have hits. He operated under a different set of rules. His career was a case study in what the industry calls bankability, but that word is too small. He had immunity. He had sovereignty. Let's define that power with cold, hard numbers that seem almost mythical today. His run was a near-flawless streak of original, star-driven blockbusters that became franchises because he was in them. Independence Day, 1996, 817 million global. Men in Black, 1997, 589 million. Enemy of the State, 1998, a hit. Wild Wild West, 1999, a creative misfire, but it still made money. The 2000s doubled down. I, Robot, 2004, $347 million. Hitch, 2005, $371 million. The Pursuit of Happiness, 2006, $307 million as a dramatic, Oscar-nominated play. I Am Legend, 2007, $585 million. Hancock, 2008, $624 million. The pattern is staggering. These weren't sequels. They weren't based on famous comic books or toys. They were Will Smith vehicles. The premise was simple. Take a high-concept idea, place Will Smith's charismatic, relatable everyman at the center, and watch the world buy tickets. He was the franchise. The product was his presence. This sovereignty was built on two unshakable pillars. Pillar 1, original blockbuster creation. As stated, his signature hits were new IP. Studios greenlit $200 million films based on a script and his name. He didn't join cinematic universes, he created them. A sequel to I, Robot or Hancock was discussed not because of brand awareness, but because he made the brand. He was the catalyst. Pillar 2, unquestioned universal bankability. This went beyond numbers. It was about trust. Audiences trusted him to deliver a specific, satisfying experience: action, heart, humor, and triumph. More importantly, studios trusted him with their money. A Will Smith July 4th weekend was an event. He could open a film to 50, 70, even 100 million domestically on his star power alone. Failure was an aberration, quickly corrected by the next smash hit. This wasn't just stardom, it was a perfectly tuned economic machine. The machine printed money and built cultural landmarks. This is the empire that was lost. And when you hold his current comeback strategy up against these two pillars, the creation of original blockbusters and the exercise of unilateral bankability, the illusion doesn't just crack, it shatters. His current projects are not designed to rebuild these pillars. They are designed to carefully avoid testing them. He is not returning to the throne. He is building a comfortable, well-furnished room in the palace basement, and hoping you don't notice he never climbed back upstairs. Act 3. The Illusion. Deconstructing the new strategy. Now hold the blueprint of his old empire, the creation of original blockbusters and unilateral star power, against the landscape of his current comeback. What you'll see isn't reconstruction, it's strategic retreat. Every move is a calculated step away from the very risks that defined his peak. Let's deconstruct the illusion, pillar by pillar. First, the franchise prisoner. Examine his announced theatrical future. It is a fortress built almost entirely on sequels and legacy IP. Bad Boys 5 is already in active development following the fourth film's success. This is the safest play possible. Its success is tethered not to Will Smith's renewed bankability, but to the pre-existing chemistry with Martin Lawrence and 3 decades of audience familiarity. Its franchise inertia. I Am Legend 2 is perhaps the most telling project. A sequel to a 16-year-old film, its entire premise reportedly hinges on an alternate ending that retcons the original's conclusion. It's not a bold new vision, it's narrative archaeology. Furthermore, its viability leans heavily on attaching another major star, Michael B. Jordan, sharing the burden Smith once carried alone. Other projects like Fast and Loose at Netflix and Sugar Bandits remain in uncertain development, often described in trades with the phrase, "still in the works." These are not the surefire, green-lit events of his past. The pattern is unmistakable. He is no longer the catalyst for new franchises. He is a steward of old ones. This is not a return to form. It is a concession. He is trading the sovereignty of creating a Men in Black for the security of extending a Bad Boys. Second, the streaming and documentary refuge. When he does step outside franchises, he does not step back onto the risky, high-stakes theatrical stage. He steps into the insulated world of streaming and prestige television. His major non-sequel projects are with Netflix and Apple. These deals, like the reported $35 million for Bright, are lucrative, but they are fundamentally different. They are prepaid acquisitions, not box office gambles. Success is measured in opaque viewership metrics, not public opening weekends. They carry no risk of a visible, embarrassing flop. This isn't building bankability, it's monetizing its faded echo in a private market. Then there's the documentary work, Welcome to Earth and Pole to Pole for National Geographic. This is reputational engineering. It is a deliberate, lateral move into a respected, non-competitive space. Here, he is Will Smith, the curious adventurer, the father, the global citizen, a persona consciously divorced from the toxic glamour of Hollywood. It's rehabilitating, but it is not competing. It's a retreat into respectability. The grand substitution. This is the core of the illusion. The industry and the media are participating in a grand substitution of terms. Activity, a full slate of projects, is being labeled momentum. Diversification, streaming documentaries, is being labeled growth. Franchise stewardship, sequels, is being labeled a return to power. But true power, Will Smith's former power, was none of those things. It was specific, concentrated, and risky. It was the audacity to say, "This is a new idea, and I am the only reason you need to see it." His current strategy is the antithesis of risk. It is a portfolio of hedged bets. The streaming deals hedge against box office failure. The documentaries hedge against celebrity scandal. The sequels hedge against audience disinterest. It is a brilliant, professional plan for career preservation and reputational management. But preservation is not a comeback. Management is not a revival. Rehook. He is building a sustainable, profitable, and respected career. But he is building it around the crater left by his former empire, not within its walls. The final, haunting question is, why does this compelling illusion persist so convincingly, even as the evidence points elsewhere? The answer lies in damage no box office figure can quantify. Act 4. The unseen damage. Why the illusion persists. If the comeback is an illusion, why does it feel so real? Why does the narrative hold? Because its persistence isn't about box office math alone. It's about psychology, industry mechanics, and our own collective desire for a simpler story. The illusion endures due to three powerful unseen forces. First, the audience's narrative hunger. We are wired for redemption arcs. The fall and rise is our oldest story. The 2022 Oscars incident provided a stark public fall. The industry and the audience are now primed, even desperate, for the rise chapter. Bad Boys, Ride or Die provided the perfect first plot point. We are subconsciously filling in the rest. Every new project announcement is seen as proof of the narrative's progression, not as individual cautious business decisions. We are willing the comeback into existence because the alternative, a permanent, messy diminishment of a beloved icon, is unsatisfying. The illusion feeds on our need for a neat ending. Second, the industry's ecosystem of hype. Hollywood's publicity machine must always move forward. It cannot publicly declare a former king permanently dethroned. It simply repurposes the language. When a trade publication like Variety runs a headline, "Will Smith plots comeback with new slate?" it is not making a declarative statement. It is reporting on his and his team's strategy. This reporting then becomes the reality. The relentless cycle of announcements, casting rumors, and premiere coverage creates a fog of activity that feels like momentum. It's not a conspiracy, it's the ecosystem functioning. By staying active and professional, Smith ensures the machine has something to chew on, and the machine, in turn, sustains the illusion of relevance. Third, and most crucial, the strategic management of a new reality. This is where Will Smith and his team are executing masterfully. They are not attempting the impossible, reclaiming 2008's unilateral power. They are defining a new, sustainable kingdom with borders drawn around their weaknesses. 1. He has publicly surrendered his old crown. In numerous interviews post-2022, his language is revealing. He speaks of healing, service, and being part of an ensemble. He is not proclaiming his singular power. He is framing himself as a collaborator, a worker. This is a brilliant preemptive disarmament. It lowers expectations and deflects the very test of sovereign star power. 2. He is leveraging what remains: work ethic and likability. The brand has pivoted from biggest movie star in the world to hardest worker in the room. This is unassailable and connects to a different, still powerful American ideal. His documentary work directly feeds this, showcasing curiosity and grit rather than arrogance. 3. He is letting the franchise be the star. By anchoring his future in Bad Boys and I Am Legend, He ties his fortunes to IP stronger than any single actor's brand in 2024. The risk is shared, the nostalgia is pre-sold, and the question is no longer, will audiences accept Will Smith? But do they want another Bad Boys? The damage from 2022 wasn't just to his reputation, it was a permanent recalibration of his risk profile. Studios now see two Will Smiths: Will Smith in a proven franchise, a valuable lower-risk asset, and Will Smith in an original gamble, a high-risk, complicated proposition. His entire comeback is the systematic avoidance of that second category. Every project choice screams, "See, I am the first, safer version." The final, unavoidable verdict. Therefore, a true comeback, a return to the box office sovereignty of the 2000s, is impossible. Not because he isn't talented or hardworking, but because the conditions that created that sovereignty are extinct. The movie star-centered blockbuster is an endangered species, replaced by IP-centered universes. And the unblemished, globally beloved persona required for that old model is, through his own actions, fractured forever. What we are witnessing is not a comeback. It is a strategic downsizing. It is a brilliant, graceful, and highly lucrative management of a diminished empire. He is building a durable, respected, and profitable career on the stable ground beside the volcano that was his former peak. He is not climbing back up. He's building a prosperous city in the fertile lands below, and the glow from that city is so impressive, so active, that we mistake it for the erupting mountaintop itself. The energy is real, the success is real, but the era it belongs to is new, and its ceiling is fundamentally, permanently lower. The throne is empty, and he is no longer trying to sit in it. If you want to understand why this keeps happening in Hollywood, watch this next. It explains the system behind it.